if you took every part of the body apart, every aspect of it, and sold it for whatever that was. Well, but that's not what you are. None of that. That's not the value of soul. Soul has no value. I guarantee if soul was killable, the billionaires would be willing to give up all their money to save it. But that's not the case. So we each have to move forward, and death is a critical word, dangerous word, happy word, bad word. If you believe in God, it helps greatly. But my best friend, I'm not going to say who it was, because you all know who it is, said to me, well, what's the reason for coming here? There's multiple reasons. Are you willing to look at them? But if you turn around and say, well, that's your viewpoint. Well, everybody says, I should say, most people that I know, they always say, well, nobody knows the truth. Nobody knows the truth. Well, that's a big lie. Hold on one second. Let me see who's calling in here. Hello? Who do I got?
Yeah, how you doing?
Greetings.
This is how you doing? This is Universal Moore. I was reading the intro. This is pretty interesting.
Do you have a question right away?
Well, I read in the beginning how people make a conjecture on what happens to you when you die. And then there was something afterward that was talking about the astral plane. And I want to, logically, if not scientifically, what is your approach to make that no different than the previous conjecture?
All right. Now, I'm a realist. All right. I don't say I'm a religionist. I'm not a Christian, even though I do talk about Jesus. I do talk about certain things. Now, there's things, soul, which means you are a soul, can become aware of easily if you do the right things. But sadly, mankind doesn't do the right things. And sadly, I don't know where you are religious-wise or belief-wise as far as God, Lucifer, demons, spirits, ghosts, and all those kind of words, and aliens. Well, I can tell you this. I'm 65. I had experiences with everything in a real way, not make-believe, a dream, or got out of bed and said, wow, that was great. So for me to talk about death, which is why I started the show today, I had 5 death experiences. All right? I was in a path called Eckankar for many years. I studied 14 other religions, but I also worked with angels, deities, and everything else beyond the physical realm. So, you don't have to accept any of that. And I'm not going to try to make you or try to make you. All I want you to understand is there's truth there if you're willing to hear it and find it. Now, the problem is very few people have a clue how to find it. The word meditation is limited to understanding. So when a person says, well, I'll meditate, and going into nothingness, you don't get answers. When a Lama goes into a cave for 40 years, it took him 40 years to come out of that cave. When a person goes into a retreat, say 6 months, what do they get when they come out of it? Things change rapidly. On this planet, in 10 years, we change incredibly. Hold on. Let me get rid of that noise. If I can. Well, for me, I spent 35 years traveling out of my body, which is called, it starts off as astral projection, and then it goes into soul travel. And they are different. They're much different. But when we follow a religion, mind gets programmed with ideas, the same as when you're little. Your parents give you a lot of mind programs, and it's based on their limited belief system. And there's very few people with a really in-depth idea of truth about death, life, birth, and all those kind of things. Because religion can't get into it. And I tell you this, I'm one of the few people that'll challenge anybody on this planet, from the Pope to the Dalai Lama, and anybody else that want to try to talk about something important. And I say important, which means God. The next important thing in my reality is Jesus, and it's not what the Bible says. The Bible doesn't describe God in any great way. It doesn't describe Jesus in any other way, except what he supposedly said, which most are fabricated. All right? And here's something else that I have to explain. I'm aware of all my past lives. And there's techniques and ways to work to understand them or find out what they were. You might not find all of them. You need a few to understand what you went through to get where you are in this moment. Right now, who you are, what soul went through. It's not this body. It didn't always look like this. In other lifetimes, it didn't look the same either. And a lot of times people don't understand this either. Soul doesn't have to come back as a man or a female. I mean, it can go back and forth. It doesn't have to stay one. Soul isn't male or female. God was never male or female. And the higher energy beings and all them are not male or female. So when we bring it down to this physical level, mankind has programmed the thinking of the human race to believe that God is made in his image, which is so far from mainstream. It's so far from the truth. An image of a being is what somebody tells you it is, rather than the experience. So what I'm getting back to try to say is, you need to experience certain things, which is what I was going to get into later, but I'll just mention it right now. Being able to step out of your body is the most important thing you can learn in this lifetime. Because if you can do that, which isn't that complicated, you'll understand the astral plane. And I mean, Jesus spoke about it.
I mean,
okay, so, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm understanding what you're saying. Astral travel as well. If I could be a little bit more clear, you said you're a realist, and realist means a person that deals with reality, not conjecture, and things that would be someone who deals with things that they know to be true, besides someone thinking something is true. And I mean that on all levels. The fact that, because I've had, you attributed your truth to your experiences. And yes, I've had what one would call supernatural experiences. And I've had that opportunity to have on several occasions the supernatural or unexplainable happen with many people on several occasions. So I'm the most unspooky person still that you could ever find, and I'm still skeptical of others' explanation and perception of what would happen that may be named supernatural or unexplanatory. And in that alone, there is a simple fact that truth is still subjective, not because it is not truth, but because every person's perception of it is subjective. And furthermore, proof is not proof. It can never be proof. Proof is only what you can get a person to accept as proof, ultimately. So
well, wait.
I ask what...
No, I understand you 100%. You're right about me, all right? Now, the difference between most people, they base their knowledge on written word, carvings, stones, pictures, what other people say. Now, again, you're saying truth is limited to a person's perception of it. That's true. But that doesn't change the truth at all. If a potato is put in front of
Exactly.
you, everybody could call it anything they want, but it's still a potato. Not that the word means anything, but it's what it is. All right. So I mean, you could say a car. Oh, well, that's a plane. That's a submarine. That's an umbrella. You could give it any kind of name you want, and that's your perception of it. But it's still what it is. So what I'm saying about experiences, there is ways to prove it to yourself, and it doesn't matter if you ever prove it to anybody else, because who you are, you need to prove to yourself what that is, because it doesn't matter how anybody perceives you. That's not why you're here. You're not here to get the whole world to say, "Oh, that's me," and that's who you are. Nobody on this planet will ever totally understand me, and I don't care if they do, and I don't want them to do. I mean, I want them to understand what I'm telling them, because all I'm telling them is to understand themselves. Like you said, your truth is all that matters to you. But is it true? Is it true to God? Is it true to life? Is it true to the world? And is it true to you, really? I mean, if you believe in Batman as your spiritual protector, and you truly believe it, does that mean anything to anybody else on this planet? Is it going to help anybody on this planet? Is it going to do anything for you, really? I mean, a ball's going to fall on your head.
In the same token as you using Batman, people use Jesus. Batman he fights for truth. He fights for justice. You know, he does things that may be a little off kilter, but he's the hero. Jesus is the hero. Vishnu is the hero. Juju is the hero.
Right. Now, here's the thing about the problem with that. Now, what I was going to explain, learning how to get out of your body is the most important thing you can learn. Second to that, all right, is learning what you are as soul. Because at that point, you're much more aware to be able to understand what God is. All right. Now, the other thing that's just one step below being able to step out of your body is being aware of your past lives. Now, that's secondary, but it's still very important, because at that point, you'll understand the whole foundation of planet Earth, how we got here, why we're here, what we're doing, and what we're doing wrong. Now, that's important.
Can I pause just for a second?
Sure, go ahead.
Because I want to render my explanation of what you're going into, and I'd be remiss if I didn't. And for those who are listening to your voice, may not understand what you're talking about in full clarity when it comes to past lives. Now, this past lives thing does have a practical application, and it does have scientific implications as well, and proofs, because of what we're learning today and the abilities that we have to learn about the body. There are experiments on mice where they train mice to eat from the green light, and if they go to the red light, they get shot. They train a generation. The generation has another generation that's not exposed to this information. However, the new generation of mice go to the green light. They avoid the red light and anything that looks like it. So apparently, this thought process or this information that has to do with the green light or the red light has been passed, what we'll say, chemically. And when you look at the DNA, and we're just now beginning to crack the periphery of what the DNA does, and you have a Googleplexes of information that can be stored in your DNA. And past lives is that same memory imprint that we have, that are imprinted in our bodies, that we drag around to help us to survive. However more you get in touch with yourself is how more you get in touch with that. So to me, that is a practical explanation of reincarnation, having the thought, which is what we are, a thought.
Okay.
I am, je pense avec je suis.
Okay, now, I understand what you're saying. I'm not saying that I agree with it, because I don't. Now, DNA has only been discovered recently. You're talking in the past 100 years, in the past 50 years, we got more into DNA than 200 years ago when we didn't even understand it. All right. Now, there's other things that are much more critical in understanding